gentle. You can hydroplane very, very easily. Just keeps going. It is thirsty though. In my last 927 miles of driving, which is the total time I've had this car, I have averaged 14 mpg. My 2023 Corvette Z06. I've owned this car for about a month and spent the last week driving and enjoying it, and this is an absolutely amazing car. I am so in love with it. But we're going to make this video talking about some of the highlights of the things that I love about this car and some of the things that I hate about the car. Honestly, for the hate about, it's more like strolling dislike, but love and hate is fantastic for SEO, and I had to think really hard. I'm kind of nitpicking. I came up with a list of 3 things that I didn't absolutely love about this car, but I mean, it's just so amazing. I am absolutely obsessed with this car, and it is phenomenal. So we're going to hit the road, go for a quick little drive, and talk about the Z06, what I love and hate about it. And hate, again, is just barely dislike. You can kind of maybe hear it right now. The first thing, this is something I actually dislike, but it's not the fault of the car. This car is designed to be a track monster. And with the Z07 package that I have option on it, the track focused aspect is increased, right? We have the bigger carbon fiber aero, we have carbon ceramic brakes, and Cup 2R tires, Michelin Cup 2R tires, which are track tires. Which means when you're not on the track and not at track temperatures and doing track things, they're not great on the street, right? It's just not the design intent, and that's one of the things I actually dislike quite a bit. In the rain, Cup 2Rs are genuinely a little bit scary. So I took delivery of the car back in LA after it got PPF and everything, and there were some big rainstorms when I was in Los Angeles, and it was sketch. I was in weather mode, being very gentle. You can hydroplane very, very easily. So it's definitely a very nerve-wracking experience driving Cup 2Rs in the wet or cold. And then when they're not fully up to temp, I mean, when you're trying to make a turn, they're skipping. They're enormously wide. There are 345 section tires out back, and like there's like no tread on them. When the tires and wheels came off for some measurements to put for new wheels on it, somebody commented on a picture, goes, "Are those already bald?" They're pretty much bald. There's like no tread. Here's a fun fact: for the PS4S, they're rated at 30 psi tire pressure. The Cup 2Rs go to 35. That extra 5 psi, they're the same size and load, all of that type of stuff, right? It's just simply to add a little bit of extra crowning to the tire for like water rejection, and that makes a difference for how they perform in the rain. So Cup 2Rs are not good for street driving, not good for rain, and this is not the fault of the car. I'm very quickly going to resolve this by getting a set of PS4S in the same size to run on aftermarket wheels, and that will quickly be resolved. These are going to stay for the track use on the stock wheels because I do want to track this car. So, I mean, Cup 2Rs suck in real-world situations, and if it's cold, don't drive on them. It's straight dangerous. Next thing that I don't really love about the car, kind of hate, dislike, actually, now that I think about it, as I'm saying this right now, I can see the heads-up display with polarized sunglasses on. When I'm wearing my sunglasses, a lot of heads-up displays, you can't see them all. Either that or you're like kind of going to turn your head to see a little bit of it or it fades out. This is still crystal clear. So actually, we're actually scrap that. Drop the heads-up display thing. That's something I actually love about the car now, because you can still see the heads-up display while you have your sunglasses on, and with the tachometer and speed and all that information. It's actually really, really awesome. Now I gotta think a second. What was the other thing I didn't like? Oh, here we go. The front trunk, the storage space is tiny. Tiny. It does have a front trunk and then it has a rear trunk, just like the regular C8 Stingray. It's mid-engine, obviously, right? So you can't have the cavernous trunk in the back. I was just hanging out with some people yesterday, and somebody had a C7 Z06, and he had the rear trunk open. I'm like, whoa, you could fit like 3 carry-on suitcases in that thing, minimum. It's absolutely enormous. It was one of the big appeals of Corvettes, right? It was such a practical, daily drivable sports car. You could take it on road trips, and it still could be a track car, all of that. The C8 lost a lot of that. The front trunk barely fits like my backpack, and I can cram a suitcase in there. I have like a away carry-on little piece of luggage, and it can fit in there, but it's not that spacious. The rear trunk is currently filled with my car cover, the foam covers for the carbon ceramic brakes. I've got like the cooling ducts, the stock center caps, things like that, because again, this car hasn't even been back to my house yet. But that, because it's right by the engine compartment, does, I notice, get pretty warm. So I wouldn't really want to put many things in that, and it's a weird shape. Yes, it can fit golf clubs. That's the Corvette measurement of cargo space, but it's like long and skinny, so it's not the most practical. I'm only judging it because there's other rear-wheel drive mid-engine supercar sports cars that have massive front trunks. I would fit myself in a Ferrari 458 front trunk. They're huge. McLarens have huge storage spaces. The R8 doesn't. R8 Huracan, because all-wheel drive on that platform definitely kills a lot of that space, but the Corvette's rear-wheel drive. So that's a little bit of a downside. It's not as practical as I thought it would be from that regard, but I didn't buy this car for it being my practical family vehicle. I don't have a family, so but I have parents and brothers. I don't have my own like little. Anyways, tangent. So now let's talk about the fun stuff. The things that I love about this car. The performance, obviously. The engine is the highlight. It is so special, and that's what initially sold me on the car. The regular C8 Stingray is phenomenal all around. The chassis, the tech, creature comforts, performance with Z51, like the way it drives, the brakes, it's really good. I spent like 6 hours in the Malibu Canyon just running up and down in a C8 Stingray Z51, and I loved it. I said in that video, I would take this C8 Stingray with the Z51 over an older R8, a Gallardo, a Ferrari F430, doing what I was doing in those driving. But the engine was not charismatic enough. It didn't rev high enough. I mean, it made good use of the power, but it didn't convey any emotion. In this Z06, it's truly special. The world's most powerful production naturally aspirated V8 ever. And I'm willing to bet it will stay that way, because who else is going to build another more powerful NA V8, right? Everything is going downsized, forced induction, hybridized. It beats out the SLS Black Series, 670 horsepower, and it just revs and revs. That was only 6,500 RPM. I can go to nearly 9,000. Such a linear power delivery, the sound, that engine is a masterpiece, and it sold me on it, right? I am in love with that engine. Absolutely ridiculous piece of engineering. It's phenomenal. The next thing is actually the dual personality of this car, where it can be a crazy mid-engine near supercar, right? Track car with 670 horsepower, huge grippy tires, aero on track. I've gotten to track the Z06 at Pittsburgh Raceway. Phenomenal machine. But then, like, you put it in tour mode, the mag ride softens up, and you're just cruising along in relative comfort. I mean, it quiets down the exhaust. It's very comfortable, pretty spacious here, beautiful interior, a lot of nice tech creature comforts. Heated seats, cooled seats, heated steering wheel, front lift, I'll get to front lift in a moment, digital rear view camera, front camera, sensors, blind spot warning, all of those things, wireless phone charger, wireless CarPlay, all of those things I just listed, my 2018 R8 RWS does not have for the same MSRP. I mean, this is obviously many years newer, but this outshines in terms of performance, tech, creature comforts. I drove it 7 hours from Los Angeles, Thousand Oaks, out here to Scottsdale, Arizona earlier this week. Great. It is thirsty, though. In my last 927 miles of driving, which is the total time I've had this car, I have averaged 14 mpg. So up your gas budget if you buy one of these things. Not that it really matters that much. So the engine, we've covered that. We've covered the tech, creature comforts, dual personality. Ooh, wait a second. Everything is up to temperatures. Ready for this? And when you hold like 4,500 RPM, oh my gosh. Those downshifts are so snappy with this 8-speed dual clutch. Oh, you can't be sad driving this car. I have let a couple friends recently, when I got out to Scottsdale, drive the car, my buddy Jordan, my buddy Gray, and they own really, really nice cars. We're talking SVJs, GT3 RSs. I mean, Gray is a race car driver, the heart of racing. He races an Aston GT4, and actually is on his way to Dubai right now to go drive a GT3 car. Jordan has phenomenal taste in cars, and they both experienced this car, and they were like, wow. So this is a seriously impressive machine. Absolutely remarkable. Front lift, I just briefly touched upon that. I am so happy I optioned front lift on this car. It is an option. I use it 4 to 5 times a day, going into steeper driveways. Arizona, like California, sometimes you have these like dips in the road, because I think that's for like water runoff, because they don't have like a gutter system like in not gutter, wherever rainwater is supposed to go, right? So there's times where you don't want to scrape your probably very expensive carbon fiber lip. The front lift is just a button right here in the middle. You hit it, and it goes burp, and it takes like 5 seconds. Whereas in a McLaren, you got to read a book and then like tap a couple things and toggle up and down, and it takes like half an hour. This is so easy. You press a button, goes up, press a button, goes back down, or goes back down at speed. Also has GPS memory, so you can store points for the front lift to automatically remember as you approach. For example, just say your driveway, you always need a front lift, just store it, and it's like up to like 2,000 data points or something like that. So the front lift is something I would absolutely recommend optioning on this car. You're already spending into the 6 figures, like what is $2,500 for a front lift, and I absolutely would recommend it. Honestly, if you don't think you're gonna use it much, maybe the person you sell it to, if you're not gonna keep it forever, may care about it. I know when I'm shopping for certain cars, I want the front lift, right? The Ferrari F12 is a car that I was looking at instead of this car, and when they don't have the front lift, you can see the 2 little buttons. I'm like, I don't know if I want that one. I want the front lift on that car. And again, the R8 does not have front lift. I've been okay with it on that car, but I'm happy this one has it. The next one is also performance related, and it's the carbon ceramic brakes. So you can option carbon ceramic brakes as a standalone, or they come with the Z07 package for the track performance. This is my first time owning a car with carbon ceramic brakes. Now, I've driven a lot of cars with carbon ceramic brakes. I really like the ones on here. I believe they're Brembo carbon ceramic rotors and pads, and the stopping power is great, but also the day-to-day, just like the brake feel, I haven't heard excessive noise even when they're cold. So I really like the carbon ceramic brakes. They're pretty easy to modulate. Just keeps going. Holy crap, like listen to that. That was just like a gentle run to red line. What a machine. What a machine. You can see why I'm so in love with this car. I do need to talk about the design, because I absolutely love that too. It is so aggressive. When the C8 Stingray first came out, I was like, that's pretty cool. It's mid-engine, definitely already has much more exotic proportions, but I just felt like it needed to be more, wider. And then we saw the C8R race car, and I was like, oh, that looks good. That looks proper supercar levels of aggression. Z06 translated that to the road. With the Z07 packet, the big carbon wing, I've got canards, dive planes up front. That adds so much to the width and aggression. Everything is so much wider to accommodate these giant wheels and tires. I think everything about the design is so awesome. I love that aspect of it. It fits in when you're driving with Italian supercars. Like, I went to a car show yesterday. I mean, we were with Lamborghinis, the Murcielago, Diablos, GTRs, like really high-end cars. And I mean, this thing holds its own from a design standpoint, and I love my spec. I love the rapid blue with the blacked outer gray and carbon accents everywhere, the two-tone blue interior. I am so happy with how this color and everything came out. So the design is absolutely amazing. Last one is the value. It's so much car for the money at MSRP without markup. As option, this one $151,000, and I'd have another video where I broke down all the costs, all the options, how much those cost, every detail in terms of the dollar amount. But at $150K up to $170K, or even if a lower spec one, you don't do 3LZ, maybe it's $130K. So in that range, this thing will match up against, again, McLarens, Porsche GT3s, Ferraris for half the price, and that's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. I feel bad for my R8. My R8 is worth about, actually it's not worth, it costs as much as this, and this demolishes it in every single objective and subjective way. So I feel quite bad for my R8, about to fly home in a couple hours and hop in the R8, which is still an amazing car, but the Z06, I am so in love with this car. Now, when you talk about value, yeah, one of the things you may want to say you hate about it is the market price, right? Because there is significant markup on these vehicles. It's hard to find at MSRP. I am very fortunate to get it at MSRP. There are people who are, but there are some dealers selling them for about 50 to 100K over. I haven't seen any Z07 pack cars sell for any, I don't know yet. So I have a feeling those are probably closer to 100K over mark, so call it a $250,000 car. Then the value becomes less of an argument. Ultimately, to me, that's a reality of the market price. The demand for the car far exceeds supply, so therefore the price is high. If the dealers don't sell it for that much, then the end buyer could potentially turn around and sell it for that. So that dollar number would just shift around somewhere, and it speaks to how good this car is. GM could probably raise the price by 50 grand, and most people would still pay for it, right? So ultimately, that's the reality of that, but at MSRP, this is such a good car. If you're waiting for one, it's going to be worth the wait. I love it. I have done a full review of this vehicle, so make sure you check out that one too. We got to drive it around the streets of Pittsburgh and also on Pit Race. What a machine. That was like my first impression being in the driver's seat. We had that engineering ride-along way long ago. That was, I think, October of 2021, prior to the official launch of this car. That was an amazing experience. And then of many more videos. My first impressions vlog as I got through break-in, spending more and more time with this car. If you have any other videos you would really love to see me make about my Z8 Z06, please comment below. I appreciate all the support. There's some of the highlights of the things that I hate and love about it, or more strongly dislike and love about it. Tiny little complaints, but so many things to love. Thanks for watching.